exactly in the wrong place. You did way down this morning. I was very impressed.
Yes? Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody. It has been a remarkable day for the Fix the Debt campaign, and I want to thank everybody who's joining us here today, and all the participants in today's events. We are joined, and I am really privileged to be part of this, by a remarkable group of people who have come in from across the country. We're joined by small business leaders, heads of nonprofits, students, CEOs, a huge diverse group of people who came to Capitol Hill today because they wanted to spread the message that the country cares about both not going off of the fiscal cliff and putting in place a comprehensive debt deal to deal with our country's fiscal challenges. And the message that they brought was, we don't want you to go off the cliff. We don't want you to bet the country. We want you to fix the country. And we had a number of productive meetings in the past couple days at the White House with the leadership of both the Senate and the House, diverse groups of House members and Senate members. And I think we've come back, I believe, pleased that we've been able to deliver the message of how there are so many people with different backgrounds, different political points of view, different life experiences who really believe that this is a critical moment for the country and a test for the country, where what we're asking the members of Congress to do is come together and take on these challenges, work together, and put in place a plan for the good of the country. It's not about special interests. It is about the public interest. And this is a message that we thought a diverse group of folks like we have today here would be great at delivering, and given how many people wanted to meet with them, I think that message was heard loud and clear. So what I'd like to do is ask a couple of the different people who are there today to come up and just speak for a minute or two about why they're involved with the campaign to fix the debt. And again, on the campaign to fix the debt, I am just so thrilled with what has happened in the past couple of months, where what was an idea to talk about an issue, the budget and fiscal responsibility doesn't always get that much attention, has truly attracted people across the country. We have 300,000 citizens who've signed up to be a part of this. We have different groups, different state organizations, really impressive people who are all coming together to work on this issue. And again, this is not about special interests. This is not about partisan interests. This is about the national interest. First, I'd like to invite up to the podium Mark Bertolini, who's the CEO of Aetna. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you for your leadership. Good afternoon. I would first put forth the reason why we're here is that this nation is one grand bargain away from leading the world out of its recession and dominating the world's economy for the next 50 years. So we had very comprehensive and frank conversations today with leaders of Congress. The good news is that everybody understands the urgency about what needs to be done and how quickly it needs to be done. Secondly, they have a good idea what the issues are. There aren't a whole lot, and they're pretty much around what do we do about revenue and what do we do about entitlement reform. The bad news, we are running out of time. By my latest calculation, we're 802 hours away from having a big problem that will send the economy into recession and put people out of work. And we don't want to see that happen. So we encourage Congress and the White House to put aside the political rhetoric that still invades this conversation and rise above it to make sure that we have revenue necessary in order to move this economy forward, and entitlement reform that helps make sure this nation is a safe and wonderful place to live. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Maya.
Thanks. And that is certainly one of the things we heard a lot about today, too, which is that the stability that we could get in this country by knowing what's around the corner, instead of facing a cliff, facing some certainty by putting in place a debt deal, would really be one of the key ingredients to helping unleash the potential in the economy, allowing small business leaders, big businesses to start to invest more, and importantly, create jobs again, which is one of the keys in really getting the economy back on track. What I'd like to do is ask Stella Adams to come up to the podium. She's a civil rights and fair housing advocate from Durham, North Carolina, and she's also a small business owner.
Thank you, Maya. My work has been to protect the most vulnerable. And I joined Fix the Debt because one of its core principles is that we don't go off the fiscal cliff and we don't make sacrifices that crush the most vulnerable populations. And so I stand here to speak for those groups. We recognize the importance of doing true reform, building revenue, true reform, and reducing debt where we can, but not at the expense of the safety net for all of us. And all our interests have to be the same. All of us need to contribute to reducing this debt and removing us from this cliff. It is not an option for inaction, because if we have that, the people who are the least likely to survive it are the ones who will be hit the hardest and hit first. And I want to leave you with a Bible verse, because that's what I do. And it's Philippians chapter 2, verse 4. Each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to invite up Kirsten Silviera, who is both a media specialist and a student at Colorado State University. Come on up.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kirsten. I am a senior political science major at Colorado State University. You would think that as a graduating senior, the number one thing I would care about would be getting a job. And I guess, in a way, that's what a lot of people are thinking about. But I actually want to be a local government practitioner, and so I'm thinking about the debt in a completely different way. I think that if we allow things to go as they are, or make a decision that isn't the right decision, we'll find ourselves unable to provide the services to local areas that we have promised, that we need, and that I hope to one day be a part of. In addition to that, Fix the Debt has amazing core principles that, regardless of where you come from, regardless of your side of the aisle, you can find a way to, I guess, rally around. And so reducing spending, tax reform, and entitlement reform are all things that we can come to a table and talk about. And I'm here urging that you guys do that. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Finally, we're going to hear from Wanda Chandler-Rome, who is a retired founder and owner of Presto Printing, which is the 10th largest commercial printer in San Antonio. She's a longstanding advocate for small and women-owned businesses.
I think being a small business advocate has become my new life-driven thing to do. As a small business owner, I understand the challenges every day. I understand the love that I felt for my employees, that they were my family, they were my friends. I wanted to give them raises. I wanted to give them insurance. I wanted to buy new pieces of equipment. I wanted to do all these things. But as a business owner, you know what your restraints are. You know what you can afford to do and what you can't afford to do. And this is what our government needs to learn, is what it can afford to do and what it cannot afford to do. Great empires have fallen, the Roman Empire, the British Empire, and we are not infallible to this. The scariest thing for me about all this is, this is all coming from the inside, the threats. It's not problems that are coming from the outside of the United States. So it's things that we can control and change within our country because it's coming from within, not from without. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much to all of our speakers. And I would point out that we have so many people up here today, each of them with a different story, a different reason for being here. We have former governors, we have civic leaders, we have religious leaders. It truly is an impressive, diverse crowd. With a message, I think, which is just going to come across over and over and over again, which is it's time to fix the country. And that while everybody here would probably have a different first choice if they were going to get into the details of how you put together a comprehensive plan to fix the debt, I think what we're all trying to say is it's time to come together and put in place a plan. The time is running out. It's critically important that we make these choices. We know that failing to do so has tremendous tremendous consequences for the country, and that there's a whole lot of upside from putting in place a sensible plan on our own terms while we still have time. So I really am incredibly gratified to have all these impressive people who have taken time out of their busy schedules to come to Washington to deliver this message. If there are a couple questions about the campaign, we could take that. And yeah, Heidi.
Mr. Bergman, this is actually for you. At this juncture in the talks, based on your meetings today, is it your impression that the bigger impediment right now to the deal is Republican intransigence on expiring those top income tax rates, or is it Democratic unwillingness to move on it?
I don't think this is a party problem. I think this is a political problem right now. The details of this need to be worked out with people having a higher order principle of why they're doing it. It shouldn't be about who wins or loses. It shouldn't be about what the electorate said in the election. What it should be is, how do we put Americans back to work? How do we prevent our economy from going into recession again and leading this country forward? And I think that dialogue needs to happen. And we're in the midst of some of those conversations today. I think the details are being discussed. There are obviously different points of view, but it's time to rise above the political rhetoric of the campaign.
Did you personally advocate in your meetings for expiring those upper income tax rates?
We don't advocate any specific position on a policy level.
If you could just say your name and your outlet, that'd be great.
Jonathan Nichols with BNA. Can you just give us some logistics about the number of people you brought up here and the number of meetings, if you have that on hand?
I can provide that to you after.
And also, just in the meeting today with Boehner and the Republican leadership, can you give us an idea about the tenor of that? Because Mr. Bowles today sounded pessimistic. There's a 2/3 chance that something will not get done by the end of the lame duck.
I think the tenor of that meeting and of the majority of the meetings that we had were very positive. Again, you see a lot of people who clearly recognize how important this issue is, who want to do something, certainly not going off of the cliff, and they have policy issues to work out, which at least the discussions are still going on. We're clearly not privy to all the details of what's going on, but I think the tenor was very positive, and I think our message was really well received, which is we have come here representing so many different interests and asking you all to work together. We know these are hard things to do, and we know it's a tight timeline, and it makes it all the more important that we get it done quickly and we get it done right. And so I think that message was heard. And again, I would say that the meetings that we had today were quite positive. Yeah, sure.
Could one of the business owners, I'm Mike Bowman with Voice of America, could one of the business owners give me a concrete example of what your business faces beginning January 1st if no deal is struck? What you're expecting from your customers, the impact on your business? Is there someone who can step forward?
I'm Cookie Driscoll from Fairfield, Pennsylvania, lovely little suburb of Gettysburg. I do a lot of B2B work with promotional products, so I depend on other business owners to come to me to get items embellished with their logos, their names, their phone numbers. I'm already seeing more and more of them pull back from that type of promotion because they don't know what their future is, which is directly impacting my future. It's a house of cards that's slowly coming down.
Next question. Go ahead.
Ken Hoover, American City Business Journals. Is it helpful or harmful that the president is going out campaigning on this issue, basically campaigning for what he wants to do, and that Republicans appear like they're going to be doing the same thing on their end, campaigning for what they want to do? Should they be out campaigning, or should they be behind closed doors negotiating, or on C-SPAN negotiating?
I think they should clearly be out educating in terms of the fact that we need to set the stage for the kind of choices that are going to be involved in putting together a big debt deal, and the president has a bully pulpit that no one else has. But at the same time, the campaign is over. It is critically important that what we're in the midst of now and that we stay in the midst of is pivoting to problem solving. And that means the time for partisanship is going to have to be put aside. Now, it's a negotiation. That's going to have to go on. But the president is going to have to go out there and use that bully pulpit to educate the country and bring them together. Because if we continue to be divided on this and continue to fight it out, we will run out of time. And everybody will be hurt in the process. And I'd say again, it's absolutely inexcusable that we would contemplate betting the country at a time when we need to be fixing it.
I'm Laura Montgomery with the Washington Post. So I know Fix the Debt has no particular position on how we should resolve this, but I'm wondering if individual business people in your individual capacity are contacting your personal representatives. I mean, what are you doing? When one side has to get off the dime, or both sides have to get off the dime, are you communicating with your own representatives to suggest a course of action?
Yeah, and that's actually what this is all about. I'm Chris Holman. I'm presently the chair of the National Small Business Association. And that is really what this is all about. And I think it's paramount that everybody understand, President on down, that this is not a political issue. This is a very real fiscal issue. And as Cookie said, there are a lot of people out there in business that are holding cash. There are stores of capital to come forward as soon as they know. Investment hates uncertainty. And as soon as that is resolved, you will see the economy begin to kick again. But yeah, we are all very active in contacting our representatives and our senators.
What are you telling them to do? Anything in particular?
Well, we're telling them a couple things, but one of them is to put aside partisanship and go at this thing objectively, because this will be an issue in their next campaign if that's where their heads are at, but more importantly, in the economic welfare of this country. Politics has to go aside, and that's what we're telling them.
2 more questions, folks.
David Walker, the former Comptroller General, gave a speech several months ago saying, unless the wealthiest Americans are willing to stand up and say that we need to expire these upper income tax rates, Republicans aren't going to have the cover to do it politically. Do you all, I imagine a lot of you fall in that category, and is there anyone willing to step forward and say that you support this, or that you've advocated this with your member or during meetings?
Support what?
Expiring the upper income tax rates.
I'm going to comment on that because one of the things that we don't want to do actually is help negotiate this for them, because they're in the midst of some tough negotiations. And what I heard in all of the meetings today is people coming forward and saying, I'm willing to be part of the solution. And we're not going to tell them how you're going to fix the problem. We're not advocating any one plan. We're not advocating any one policy. But these are people who came to Washington, and this is what's really different. Not with their hand out saying, give me this, and not saying, don't touch this, don't touch this, don't touch this, but actually coming into politicians' offices all across the Capitol today saying, I want to be part of the solution. And I think that message was so different, and I hope that that's what's going to make the impact of this campaign different.
Last question. Go ahead.
Peter Schrader from the Hill newspaper. There's a lot of talk here about getting some sort of grand bargain, some sort of solution that would have some sense of finality, but as we've seen over the last couple of years, every single fight comes to some sort of resolution, and then we almost immediately start relitigating that fight over again. What is it now that makes you think that we could reach some sort of an agreement that actually would have some sort of the certainty that you keep saying you're hoping for?
The bottom line is nothing focuses the mind like the fiscal cliff, right? There's fiscal cliff clocks. We're counting the hours left to negotiate. Everybody knows about the fiscal cliff. Your kids probably know about the fiscal cliff. So this is a new moment which is filled with threats. But that threat is also an opportunity, which is if we can't do it now, where these members of Congress know these changes have to be made, and in fact, they, for the most part, know what those changes need to be, but they have something that is forcing them to do it, this is the best moment that we've had. And let us hope that we don't go through one of these political battles where they fight it out, they expend their political capital, we're all left frustrated because they can't govern, and the headlines the next day after what debt deal they put together says, U.S. still faces huge fiscal problem. What we really want them to do is put in place a plan that's big enough to fix the problem. And that's going to be what's going to have the upside of the certainty, of the stability, and of the knowledge of what's around the corner. And importantly, finally showing to all of us that this country can govern itself. The whole world is watching right now. And the world is really rooting for us. People want the United States to climb out of this hole and fix this problem. And the clock is ticking as we wait to see if they'll be able to do it.
Thank you
you.
very much, folks. Appreciate it.